My name is Jason JRock Houston, and you're listening to Guitarist Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.guitarist.com, and we're speaking tonight with guitarist Michael Abdow. And Michael, you're a solo artist, and you're also, last time we talked to you, were the touring guitarist in Fate's Warning. I understand you're more of a full-time member now. Is that correct?
Yeah, full-time touring guitar player.
Oh, okay. And, were you involved at all with the new album they have coming out November 6th?
Yeah, I played a handful of guest solos on it.
Oh, that's great. So we'll get into that now. Your latest solo album is called Heart Signal. I believe that came out last April. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like how many songs are on the album, and you want I guess just start with that and tell people like did you produce it or?
Oh yeah, of course. Yep, Heart Signal came out in April. It's my fourth solo record, if you will. It's all instrumental, and that's kind of just been my approach for. I had a couple vocalists on my first solo record, but I kind of just like instrumental a lot. So that's
okay. Let's talk a little bit about that because I have no doubt that you can shred with the best of them, but like, and I haven't had a chance to check out the new album. Really, I heard the sample, the title track, I guess it is, you have up on your website. And I will say this: what impressed me with that, which is not always really easy to do when you're listening to instrumental music, especially where there are players where guys are trying to show how fast they can shred and all that. A lot of times you'll get an album where like all 10 tracks sound exactly the same. Where even though I just heard the one title track, it sounded very, not only melodic, but there's soul to the music, if you know what I mean. Where I would imagine the entire album does not sound like that. I'd imagine it'd be something where each track would kind of stand out on its own.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all. That's very kind of you to say. I am kind of always going for that because I'm really into just dynamics and intensity and mellowness and laying back with your playing and then playing more technical. These are all just dynamics. Yeah,
to your style of playing, and it's interesting because let's be honest, a lot of times most people listen to music that's got that have lyrics and words, and so it's a little more easier to take the listener on a musical journey because like I can listen to the lyrics and kind of think, okay, this is what they wrote the song about or whatever. Whereas it's not always that easy to do that with instrumental music. Although you do take the listener on a musical journey, and the listener can tell as far as is this like a love song? Is this something aggressive? Just by the style of your playing in the song, But again, you can't necessarily listen to a piece of instrumental music and necessarily really know what it's about. It's kind of left for people to interpret. Is that something you enjoy about doing instrumental music?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the beauty of it. It's kind of more personalized for the listener. I always have, my song titles are not really about what the song sounds like.
Okay, interesting.
Sonically, they're more about like what it makes me feel, and then in the liner notes of the record, I always have, at least in the last two records, I always have like accompanying, notes and philosophies and ideas that go with the songs, but they're always to be very open-ended. They're always just kind of concepts to be interpreted.
So now let's talk about the latest one, Heart Signal, since that's the one I've heard off the latest album. What was that song about to you? Was it necessarily having anything to do with the heart, about someone you love, or what was it about? Just kind of, I was interested in hearing your interpretation of it, obviously, since you're one that wrote it.
Yeah, well, it's not a love song or a physical heart or anything like that. Yeah. I'll read you I just grabbed the copy of the record. I'll read you the accompanying, idea.
Okay, sure.
So for Heart Signal, the magnitude of the mind is as great as the fragility of the body's grip on life. Oh,
wow. You really, that's quite a thought right there. You really get into it, and that's deep, man.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of implications to that, and it's one of those things. I could tell you exactly what it means to me and why I wrote that. That idea. But I mean, people can relate to that in all different ways, and that's the whole idea. I mean,
music,
With that song in particular, it's really just very, very heavy and very weighted, and it's connected to your. It describes sort of how your psyche connects to your physical experience.
Almost like mind, body, and spirit. I mean, it's kind of interesting because when I hear like a song title, I'm kind of interested in you saying that that's not necessarily kind of how you base your song titles, because typically, like even when I'm listening to a piece of instrumental music, I'm trying to think, okay, what's this guy trying to get across? Typically, like if it's an aggressive piece of music, I'll think, okay, maybe he was really angry when he did this, or maybe this is about he got in an argument with somebody or something like that. And like I said, it's much harder to do that with instrumental music, but it's a challenge, and it's kind of interesting at the same time. And also Heart Signal, I almost thought too when I thought about, okay, maybe this is about somebody's physical heart, somebody was in the hospital or something. So it's interesting to hear how you kind of come up with the song titles. Another thing I was interested in, Michael, when I was reading your biography online, typically, people, guys that are musicians, they start playing the guitar, drums, or whatever at an early age. You form a band and you start going out and playing it. You did a kind of like very interesting in that you're also you got a degree, I see, in music education. You got a degree in mathematics, so you're more of just a guy that can shred on the guitar. I mean, you went to school for this stuff. You really studied and honed your craft before you went out there and started doing what you're doing these days.
Yeah. So my degree's in music performance and mathematics.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have an associate's degree in music performance and a BS in mathematics. I have a BA in mathematics.
Wow.
It's a bachelor's degree.
Okay, yeah.
So no like real formal educational training, although I have been a teacher my entire adult life.
And have you what have you taught? Music or mathematics, or a little bit of both?
I did teach mathematics for 3 years.
Wow.
Early on, right after I had my degree, but then I stopped. I got more opportunities to play music, and that's really what I love. You really
have like someone to fall back on. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's academia in any way, shape, or form is a passion of mine. I love reading and I love exploring things, and I always loved mathematics. But it's for me, it's not as fulfilling to practice as music is.
That makes sense, because that was kind of going to be my next question. Not everybody, obviously, but the general people in general, a lot of us are not that great at math. So like especially when you're a student and you're in school, that's a lot for a lot of us. That's the last thing we want to study. So I'm kind of interested. Obviously, you like you said, you're more interested in music while you're also into mathematics. But what got you into math? You obviously must have been good at it.
Yeah, I liked that. Well, it is a creative subject, but when you're learning, especially in secondary education and the majority of college, undergrad college courses, not as much of it's educational. It's very finite, So it needs to be practiced. You encounter a lot of different situations, but you can reach a finite answer to describe, what you're observing or the world around you. Make predictions, and I mean, it's really nice and kind of like if you're
able to do it, I would imagine. Yeah.
You can put your thumb on it most of the time, whereas music you can't.
Yeah.
So that's where they're very different.
Have you ever been able to use
like higher levels of mathematics? It does get creative in the way that you.
Have you ever been able to use your ability for mathematics with your music in any way?
No, a lot of people say that they're similar, the same, and
really not.
In very elementary ways, they might be, but really the things that matter about both are like worlds apart. To me. Yeah.
And now, as far as teaching, I'm assuming you also taught guitar, even just music theory.
Yep. Yep. So mostly right now just a one-on-one teacher, private teacher, and I teach guitar. I do a lot of music theory with students.
Do you typically, for your students, like, do you teach guitar lessons like online? Do you have them come to you, or what's the approach usually?
Well, yeah, now it's online just because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the past, it had been, both, some in person, some online. I think I'm going to try and do, going forward, even when COVID kind of quiets down, I think I'm going to continue to try doing online because it's helped me to reach people that I wouldn't be able to. They don't live near me. I wouldn't be able to teach them in person. And
do you typically, you have a live one-on-one session, kind of like a Skype or Zoom type thing, or do you record lessons for people to kind of, download and check out, or what's your process with that?
No, I've always just done it live. I like interacting with people.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I really like the personal, interpersonal contact. I've done in the past, writing columns for, web scenes or whatever.
Yeah.
Showing things, but it's just not very stimulating for me. I like working with people.
And what's your experience been, Michael, with YouTube? Because I know there's one guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Maxwell Carlisle. He's a real shredder type guitar player, and he was telling me, he's had some high profile gigs. Like, he used to play with Halen and Society One. He's got great solo albums out, instrumental stuff. And he was telling me that a few years ago he started doing these instructional videos that he'd post on YouTube, and all of a sudden he said, I was always trying to get to NAMM. Nobody ever knew who I was until I started doing these videos, and now I was always started getting all these invitations, all these endorsements. Have you ever tried to post any of your stuff up on YouTube?
Well, to answer your question, not the way that I think he's Guitar Max, right? Is that who?
Yeah. 3X.
He's great. I know of him and I enjoy his videos. I think he's extremely articulate in the way he presents things. I mean, he can do more than just.
He's a very thinking type guy too, because he recently posted videos where, he's one of these guys. He's into photography. He's recently learning how to fly a plane. He's posted videos about that, and he did one of these instructional guitar type things where he buried a guitar for a month, and then he showed people, okay, this is what it was like when I dug it up, and how to fix it up. It's just crazy stuff, but people are into that,
Yeah, I've been attracted to some of his demos, gear demos and things, and he's I enjoy him a lot as a personality. I think that's a really cool thing. He's a really great guitar player, but
he's got the personality to go with it,
he can do a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think too, with you're talking about giving lessons online, especially in the age of COVID, like you're saying. Could you imagine if that wasn't available? At least you got this outlet where, with the current lockdown and everything, we're not knowing how it's going to be. Some people are out of work. At least you're able to kind of do that online and kind of make an income with it. That's got to be a cool thing for you,
Yeah, to some effect. My main gig is playing live.
Oh yeah.
So I've been making my living for over a decade now, and teaching lessons online is, as much as I enjoy it, it's making up a small fraction of what I love.
But at least you have that option, and then there's also the fact, because it's over the internet, if you ever got down, to kind of like what we're facing right now with this lockdown, you're not able to tour as much as you were once able to. That option is kind of there, and because it's on the internet, that's worldwide. You could be giving somebody a lesson that maybe lives in Europe or something, and you're here in the United States.
Oh, sure, yeah, it's a nice thing. We live in fortunate time to be under this situation,
Yeah. And
but going back to your question, I think you asked, did I think about doing, something similar to Max?
Yeah, because it's amazing. I don't know why he's not bigger. He's starting to get the recognition the last several years, because, like you said, he's a huge personality, and eventually people are going to start seeing that, and they are. But it's just amazing that it took him posting stuff on YouTube like what he does for people to really start to take notice.
Yeah, and I love his content. I think he's great. But to answer your question, that's definitely not.
Your cup.
I don't think that's me.
Yeah. Let's stay true to what you do.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's always drawn me to music is I can do it by myself, and it's been a very kind of like a personal thing for me.
Yeah, let me
practicing and writing, and so just the idea of me taking all of that and capturing and making all my energy.
And like they say, Michael.
Play it for people.
Yeah.
That doesn't really seem appealing. That's not really why I got into it.
That's great because you got your own story, and it's kind of a unique story in itself because you're a very tasteful player. I've like I said, last time I interviewed you for the first time was about a year and a half ago, and I was interviewing you at the time about the latest solo album you had at then. Very tasteful stuff, very impressive. And see, that's what I was kind of saying at the top of the interview, which is, you're educated in music, you got a degree in mathematics, you kind of did not do things the typical way, in the sense that, like you said, I can go out and release an album on my own. Sometimes I guest star in other people's albums, and there's no doubt that you played on all these records, you've done all these great solo albums, you've been touring and involved with Fate's Warning over the last several years. So people are also taking notice of what you do. And like I said, typically, a lot of times people, when they get in the music business, they'll try to they'll form a band, or they'll try to join an established band to kind of get their name out there. But you kind of did it the backwards way. You got your solo stuff out there. People start taking notice, and now you get invited to play on all these albums. So that's great because you've kind of really created this whole, this whole thing of what you do, and people are definitely taking notice.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. I really don't know how these things come about because
just kind of faith, right?
Yeah, I don't have like a plan of attack to like plan for my future, what I'm going to work on
and
next.
Sometimes that's the best way to do it because. Not just music and what you do, but like anything in life, a lot of times good things start to happen, in your life when you least expect it, or when you think, this isn't working out. Just when you think, things start to happen for you,
Yeah, I mean it's weird. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I love music. I love practicing music and making music, and I just trust that if I'm doing that, and
especially with music,
for the right reasons, and I will find myself hopefully in a good place, and hopefully, I just always want to do that with great people.
Especially with music, it should never feel like a job, And what you're describing, I think, part of the reason you've been so successful is not only are you really technically a great player, and you got your own style and your own taste for what you do, but I think it's because you enjoy doing it. Whereas if this was really kind of like a job, man, I got to go to the studio today. Oh man, I'm going to be in the studio for the next month. Oh man, But you actually, like you said, you enjoy what you do, and that comes out, I think, in the music.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I definitely do. I think that's why I do the solo records, because it's not like a vain thing, like, oh, it's just me and like listen to me play or something like that. It's like every time I'm working on a new one right now, and every time I get into that, it's like I don't know what's going to happen, and the only thing that's going to happen is discovery, and however deep I want to go is how deep it's going to go, and it's like that's an exciting thing to me, and so I'm always chasing that, and so it's totally fun and stimulating, and it's helps me to grow as a person and musician, especially. Yeah.
So like when you go in the studio, do you have a home studio? I'm assuming that you recorded this stuff at.
Oh, yeah. I've always worked out of my home studio. Yep.
And I was curious. So like when you're ready to go in, like you said, you're working on a new album now. Do you typically have a direction for the album? Like, is there like a vault of riffs you have already like recorded? You kind of go to, or do you start fresh? Like every time you go in to record a new album, you start coming up with fresh riffs, or do you have any stuff like you might have done on your last album but didn't make it onto the final album?
No, I usually always start fresh, because for me, when I'm writing, I have to be really excited about an idea, and like exciting ideas to me are new ones to me. Yeah. So if I have like something, a lot of times if I'm jamming and I'm being creative, I'll like do a quick phone recording or whatever. And sometimes if like stuff's really old and I go back and listen, it could be good, but it's not exciting because I'm not pursuing the moment.
Yeah.
You know?
And I would imagine, since you're doing instrumental music, a lot of times the songs that you do are based a lot of times on emotions, or kind of like you said, what you're going through in everyday life. But do you ever get inspired, like, to come up with a song, maybe something you heard on the TV news, or some movie or something that you saw, or a song by another artist?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an interesting thing as far as emotions go, or what you're feeling. At least for me, what I might be feeling. I can't write or practice or do anything if I'm feeling emotionally charged. It's just not possible. I know, like, some people, like, they're gonna write their greatest song when they're sad or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I work best when I am, like, it's a meditative thing almost. When I'm relaxed, when my head is clear and I can just allow it to be what it's going to be. And then these things from past experiences will come in, feelings, things I might want to pursue. That's kind of like when things happen. But, and the same thing goes for influences when you're talking about, like, a movie or a song from another artist. These things, they're like memories that come back, and they
interesting, because
influence what you're doing.
Yeah, because again, like, if you have a real aggressive kind of metal type song, maybe typically people think, okay, maybe he was angry when he did that, or maybe he remembers having a fight with somebody, and the aggression just comes alive. But it's interesting that you say no, not so much that, because again, when you're dealing with music that has lyrics, it's a lot easier to figure out what the song's about. Whereas I think, kind of like with the music you do, like you're talking about, the listeners, at least, they're going off of their emotions. While that may not have been your intent, like when I'm listening to instrumental music, I'm going on my own little journey, even if it's not the same journey that you created with, which is kind of interesting, way to approach music.
Yeah, it is. It's probably very individualized. It's like, how do you listen to music? For me personally, when I'm listening to music, I don't listen to music because I'm angry or sad or anything like that.
It's like, whatever's on your mind.
Yeah, I put on music I love, and I let it just, like, take me somewhere. And music never makes me angry, even if it's like, death metal. It's just like it's more of the impact of it.
Yeah,
not like an aggression thing,
Yeah. That's interesting. Now let me ask you, like again, this is just very it's very heartfelt. I think, and that's like it's music from the heart. I guess like you're talking about, for example, earlier. It's kind of like, I guess the best way to say this is the musical journey. Like when you put on an instrumental piece of music, or even one of your soul albums, Mike, it's your whole body, spirit, and soul. It's how it makes you feel.
That's how. Are you saying that's what the perception is, or that's?
Well, no, I'm saying again, like if I listen to a Van Halen song, typically it's got lyrics, like jump, jump. I kind of, I watch the video, I kind of get a real idea what it's about. But with instrumental music, like it really, the person listening to it, it takes over your body, your spirit, your soul, and you kind of become one with it,
Oh, yeah, I understand what you mean, yeah.
And now let me ask you, who were some of your guitar heroes when you were growing up, your influence? Now, I did see you mentioned, obviously, because the great Eddie Van Halen recently passed away, you mentioned him, but how big of an influence was he on you?
Well, Eddie was probably like the first electric guitar player that I acknowledged. Because I remember when I was like real young, my parents would play me Michael Jackson records.
Beat it.
And they would put on Thriller, and I didn't know who Eddie Van Halen was, but I knew the song Beat It. And I knew the guitar sounded so killer in it, and specifically the guitar solo, So that was kind of like
your introduction to Eddie.
Age, like ingrained in what I thought guitar, could be and what it was. So.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Now let me ask you, like, Van Halen, of course, monster guitar player, but like starting with 1984 and even after Sammy Hagar joined, he also got really heavy involved in the keyboards. What did you think of Van Halen having like keyboards in the music?
Oh, it was super inspiring, especially because he was playing them.
Yeah,
it was just, he's a multi-instrumentalist, and music is just flowing out of that guy,
Yeah. Because I've always been,
I love the keys.
Yeah, I've always been one to believe too. Like people say, keyboards don't belong in rock music, but I tell them, put on a Boston album, put on like Deep Purple. Look at what John Lord did on that, Hammond organ. I mean, they could, like Deep Purple back in the day. If you ever see the band live, I mean, they would jam on one song live like for 30 minutes.
Oh yeah. Of course.
Yeah. And now Eddie obviously is an influence. Who were some of the other guys that influenced you?
Yeah, so Eddie, I've always loved what he did, but I wouldn't necessarily acknowledge. I mean, look, anything you listen to is going to be an influence because it affects you, But I never tried to
copy him,
that sort of sound or anything.
Yeah.
But I think going, through the 90s is really when I was kind of
coming up,
identifying what I really loved and what I was pursuing, and it's even to this day, Al Di Meola is a huge.
Definitely.
He's one of my favorite players.
Wow.
As a player and composer.
Wow.
And then as far as rock guys, definitely rock metal guys like your Michael Romeos, your John Petrucci's.
Oh wow.
I don't know. I love so many guitar players. I went through this huge Robin Trower phase.
Oh wow. Okay.
You just kind of you appreciate them all. I mean, I probably listen to all the guitar players that everyone else does.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Beck was on my radar the past 5 or 6 years, just digging into his catalog, loving every moment of it.
Now that's amazing because he goes. I mean, all the way back to 70s and even before that. Maybe late 60s. But he's always been a huge influence as far as pretty much any guitar players. I mean, because again, he goes so far back, but he's still doing it.
Oh yeah, and there's more music than I think we can really consume and appreciate. So I just try and when I'm ready, I just look for something different that really I hear honesty and passion. That Pat Metheny is another one, a big one. George Benson. Oh wow. I'm thinking some of the jazz stars I love.
Yeah. Now let me ask you about that because I was reading again your online biography and it was saying a lot of guitar players I've noticed are really influenced by a lot of jazz players. Why do you think that is, Michael? Or at least why in your case,
in my case, when I went to school for jazz performance, or for music performance, I majored in jazz music. And it wasn't, they didn't have, where I went to school in Holyoke, at Holyoke Community College here in Western Massachusetts. There was a classical program and a jazz program. And I didn't go in there thinking, I just want to play rock and I'll have to choose one of these. I went in there as a student of music, and I already had a little bit of a classical background. I had a little bit of a jazz background, but not a lot. And it's just
because it's interesting because I think that's why your music has so much soul to it, and it's got so much taste. Like I said, I can listen to pretty much any of your solo albums, and it's all you're playing for what fits the song. You're not necessarily trying to show how fast you can shred. That's not what it's about for you. It's about what fits the song. But at the end of the day, what you care most about is the song, not showing how fast you can play. And I think also because your music, you could probably shred with the best one, but because your music, you don't make that type of music necessarily. There's a rock element to what you do, but there's also that jazz element that I could hear throughout a lot of your solo stuff. And so I think because you got that jazz element in with the rock, I think that's why it's so tasteful. And you bring that to the music. And I've been aware, even guys like Ritchie Blackmore, he was influenced by that neoclassical stuff. That's why if you listen to what he's doing these days with his band Blackmore's Night, which is he has a band with his wife Candace. She's a singer, and they do like this folky music. Sounds nothing like Deep Purple, but you could see that that's what he was influenced on if you listen to any of his newer records.
Yeah. I mean, I think the jazz music is predates rock music. And,
obviously, yeah.
Blues predates jazz music, but blues kind of like is where rock
was born. I mean, Chuck Berry
predominantly, yeah. But you have that missing link in there, that jazz link. From if you're just looking, jazz is alive and well right now. But if you just look at the evolution of music throughout the 20th century, it kind of went from blues to, and then jazz had its day in the mainstream culture, and then rock just kind of took from blues, but from a harmony perspective, from a compositional perspective, there's so much depth in jazz, and it was such a unique music, type of music when it was being pioneered. That stuff, when you're a rock musician today, you're not necessarily trying to do the fusion thing and play jazz lines over rock music.
No, but
it's more like you're drawing on the harmony and the depth and the soul of what they were doing, and really the complexity of note choices.
I mean, that's why a guy like you would fit in with like a progressive rock group, because you got that kind of extra flair to to your style of playing, I think.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's where I feel most at home, I think. I'm not really into the jam band thing, but I love jamming.
Oh, yeah.
But I also, like, as far as rock music goes, my very favorite is probably, like, progressive rock, especially, coming out of the 90s and 2000s.
Because,
that's where I feel most at home.
I mean, I think we're kind of making the same point here, but, like, you even take a band like Led Zeppelin. A lot of hard rock fans, they think of Led Zeppelin as this heavy band. You think of like Whole Lot of Love, Houses of Holy, or rock and roll. But if you go back and you really dig into the early Led Zeppelin albums, a lot of those albums were based more on blues, like you're saying, than even hardcore rock.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and blues is like alive and arguably better than it, doing better than it ever has. I mean, blues is huge still.
Oh yeah.
But like when you look at just rock and where that whole thing came from, like heavy on the blues.
Oh yeah.
Which is great. I mean, blues is the foundation of our Western, our American music. At least what was developed over here. Not Western harmony. I was about to say that, but that would have been incorrect.
Okay.
But just like what came out of North America, and
Oh wow! And let me ask you, Michael, being an instrumental guitar player, I know a lot of guys do like music for soundtracks and film scores. Have you ever been involved in anything like that?
No, I haven't. But it's an interest of mine. I love some of the composers that do that stuff. I'm not a huge gamer, but I love Jesper Kidd, who has composed for a number of video games. I love his music.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the huge industry that has become. I mean, a lot of the '80s rock guys, that aren't as big as they once were. A lot of those guys, that's kind of their main way to make music. They do music for like sports things on TV, commercial jingles and stuff, and music for films. It's amazing how huge that industry has kind of become. But before we wrap this up, Michael, I got to ask you a little bit about Fate's Warning. Now, I wanted, what was the year when you first got involved with them? And I was kind of curious. I mean, what was the process for you getting involved with that band? Did you know they were looking for a guitar player? Did somebody from the band or their management reach out to you? What was the process like for you as far as getting to work with them?
Well, it was the summer of 2013. The band was just about to release Darkness in Different Light. They had toured, European tour lined up.
Yeah.
and followed. I think we did the States right after that too. But they, I guess they had some people lined up. It was known that Frank Oreski wasn't going to be able to tour.
Okay.
And he had played on that record, and I think they had some people lined up, but they fell through or whatever, and it was kind of like a later thing. I had about a month to
learn all this stuff.
Yeah, to get it together. But we have a mutual friend in Jeremy Saffer, who's a photographer, and he's the editor for Outburn magazine right now.
Okay.
But yeah, he's a mutual friend of ours, and he recommended me, and then I just was talking with Jim Mattheos from there.
Oh wow! So let me ask you, as far as learning this stuff, you said you had about a month. So what was that process like? I mean, were you kind of at home studying the records? Did they kind of tell you what songs you would need to know, or did you kind of just learn the whole catalog?
Well, no. I mean, they had Jim had the set list, and he was very helpful and excellent, and had ISO tracks and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he made my life as easy as it possibly could have been. I worked. I of course worked as hard as I possibly could, but he was great in helping me. Step into that role.
And now let me ask you: Are you an official member at this point? And the reason I ask that is because you've been involved with the band pretty much since 2013, like you said. When I called you today to do an interview, you're telling me kind of, well, I'm a touring guitarist, but you were also mentioning that you also play on the new album that's coming out November 6th, and I believe it's called Long Day, Good Night. I love that title. But so, would you say you're pretty much still the touring guitar player? What's your official title?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, we've never really
discussed it, but I mean, you're still there, so
discussed that sort of thing.
You're still there, so I would kind of consider you the guitar player, right? For Fates.
Yeah, I mean, so my involvement with Fates Warning, I've played all of the tours since 2013.
Okay.
And I did a guest solo on Theories of Flight. I was the only other guitar player on this latest Long Day, Good Night, aside from Jim. Jim did everything, and then he had me play, a handful of solos.
So do you and him play on any of the tracks together, or do you take different turns playing on different tracks?
Oh yeah, yep. So I had only played solos, so Jim plays on every single track.
I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, and then there are a couple really cool tracks where there's I don't want to give anything away.
I hear you.
But there's I'm playing clean telly. Then there's the bass solo. Joey's playing a bass solo, and then Jim's playing a overdriven stuff. Yeah. So it's pretty dynamic, and we're all kind of flowing through the song like that.
Yeah, and what was the recording process like for this album? I mean, again with COVID and everything, was everybody in the same room, or I'm kind of assuming you guys were kind of doing the modern way, where each guy would kind of record his separate parts and you'd piece it all together at the end?
Yeah, it was all done remotely for sure. First of all, I mean, we're all spread out
throughout the United States, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't live locally to be able to travel, and Ray Alder lives in Madrid, Spain.
Oh wow.
So I mean, we were all, of course, I recorded my parts in my home studio here.
Yeah. And I would guess though that's kind of refreshing too, because you can kind of be at home in your studio, and it's just you there, and you can kind of do your thing, and if you have to do a couple extra takes, you can do that and kind of be at peace and don't have other people in the room to kind of you're just kind of there to do your own thing, right?
Yeah, I mean it's really a matter of necessity these days. Yeah. Very few bands have a budget to fly everybody to a recording studio for
could you imagine?
A month or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of need to have your own recording set up to be a functional recording person these days. At least for most of us.
And were you at all? So you did the solos, as you were saying, but were you involved at all with any of the songwriting?
No. No, not at all.
Okay, and that's pretty cool. Now, like a lot of people, I kind of until recently, I'd say, I kind of always thought of Fates Warning as kind of a metal band, but then the publicist sent me kind of a download link to check out the new album, and I was reading, the press release and that, and I was kind of, as I listened, I kind of agree. Yeah, these guys are actually more of a, I don't know if you want to say, I wouldn't say progressive rock. When I think of progressive rock, I kind of think of like Yes, but I would definitely say you guys are a progressive metal band. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, your phone cut out there.
Okay. Let me repeat that. I was saying
you would say we're more of a what?
Well, I was saying I was checking out the new album, and your publicist sent me a download link, and in any event, it kind of describes you guys as a like progressive rock. But I would say progressive rock, when I think of that, is kind of like Yes, but I would say you guys are definitely progressive metal, because you got elements kind of obviously of progressive music and kind of metal. It's kind of the best of both worlds, I would say.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, right now I think the band the guys in the band consider it more of a rock band more than anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Not even really progressive these days. But I mean, if you look at the early Fates records, I mean, they're credited as innovating the progressive metal genre.
Yeah.
But nowadays I think everyone's comfortable calling a rock / heavy rock band.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would say it was like I mean, when I think of like metal, I would kind of think more like Slayer. That kind of full blown on stuff. But you guys definitely got again like what you do on your solo. It's got taste. It's got feel. It's got melody to it. And and although I know you just joined the band in 2013, I didn't even realize till I was reading the press release that Fates Warning has been around 35 years. That's quite impressive,
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool.
And then I think part of the reason there's that description of progressive music in there is I think it has more to do like I was reading that this album in particular was like one of the longest Fate Warning albums, and I mean just track 1, for example, the Destination Onward, that track there is over 8 minutes long. But it takes a listener, kind of like we were talking about at the top of the interview, takes a listener on a real musical journey. But it's one that definitely I listened to all the way through. I did not get tired. I did not stop playing it. So I think you guys really got a knack for what you do here.
Yeah, I mean, the guys, they when you're writing 8 minute, Jim and Ray, when you're writing 8-minute songs that take a listener on a journey, there's definitely a progressive element to that. I would say as a fan, I would call that progressive by nature, but you know how you classify.
Oh yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what you're saying. That's the point I was making. But see, people always need a label. They always have to label everything, and you can't necessarily. A lot of times you can't necessarily pin a band down. Particularly, I mean, take a great legendary band like Kiss. That's nothing like what you guys do. But okay, you could say Kiss is a hard rock band. You could say they're a metal band. You could say they're a pop band. I mean, you listen, for example, like to the song "Lick It Up" or "Heaven's on Fire." That's a little more of a metal element. But you could go back and listen to like "Nothing to Lose" or "Rock and Roll Over," "Rock and Roll All Night." Strutter. That's definitely more of a pop or rock element. So a lot of times it's hard to label a band. And you can't necessarily pigeonhole them. And that's what I think it really makes for a really great band. When again, a band like Kiss or even Motley Crue. Motley Crue does everything from like "Kickstart My Heart" to "Home Sweet Home."
Yeah, I agree. It makes it exciting, for the listener.
Yeah.
It's like when bands. I know I'm a huge fan of music, obviously, and like I watch a lot of my favorite bands like make different records.
Yeah.
And when they make different records, like they turn off different groups of fans. But the last thing I want is for the band to make the same record, more than once.
I mean, as long as they stay kind of true to what they do in their sound. I mean, I think kind of a real good example of what you're talking about is, look at the band Extreme with Gary Sharon and Nuno Betancourt. I mean, if you go back to those first 2 albums, they got like a lot of great rock stuff. But when people talk about Extreme today, they'll tell you, Oh, Extreme. They're the band that, they did that great power ballad, More Than Words. They were that one-hit wonder band. No, if you really dig into the catalog, they got some great music. People just forgot about it,
Oh yeah. It's just the majority of people remember the song that had the most commercial success.
Yeah. That's unfortunate sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you, Michael, before we wrap this up tonight. You talked about some of your influence, but I was wondering. I ask this a lot of times for people just to kind of, to touch on a little more on their influences. Is there an album? It could be by a guitar player. It could be by a band you were influenced by when you were growing up. Is there like, for example, 2020, for example, marks the 40th anniversary, if you can believe it or not, of Back in Black by AC/DC. I mean, a lot of people might cite that as one of those albums in their life that, that's one of those albums that did it for me. When I heard that album, I wanted to play like Angus. Is there an album or a band or even a album by one of your favorite guitar players that kind of you would cite as, that's one of the first albums that really made me take notice of the guitar?
Oh, one of the first ones?
Or just one of your favorites. It doesn't have to be the first, but you know what I mean?
Oh geez, there's so many. I think like back to my teenage years.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Like listening. Yeah, maybe Ride the Lightning or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, wow. And now...
I mean, or Master of Puppets, Metallica back when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But,
now let me ask you, as far as Metallica... Wow. Let me ask you, as far as Metallica goes, because, just this year, too, was, like, oddly enough, the 34th anniversary since Cliff Burton passed away, and I was kind of curious. A lot of people, when they cite Metallica, they'll cite, like, those first 3 albums. You mentioned Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, so you're right in there with that. But I was kind of curious, like, when later on in their career, even up to what they're doing today, the Black Album especially, a lot of people thought, oh man, they sold out. They're all over MTV. They're all over the radio. What are your thoughts on that? Would you say that you kind of gravitate towards those earlier albums because maybe they're more heavier, or do you kind of like it all?
I like it all. I mean, I think when people get involved with
that stuff, it's crazy.
Bands sold out or whatever. I think they're just experiencing those records maybe perpetually from what they thought of when they first came out.
Yeah,
so I wasn't into all that stuff when it came out. So when I dive into the back catalog, and this is true for Jeff Beck too. He's another great example. Like some of my favorite Jeff Beck records are the ones that Jeff Beck fans are least favorited up. They're not as into those. And so the same thing goes for Metallica. I mean, I like it all. I was listening to Load with my friend in his car the other day, and we were just talking about how incredible the record sounded and how cool the songs were.
Yeah, let me tell you. Now you mentioned Load. Now you mentioned Load, I got to ask you because I don't know if you feel the same way, but one of my favorite songs off of that has got to be "Hero of the Day." I don't know what it is, but I just love the overall groove of the song.
I still love Until It Sleeps on that record.
Oh, that's another good one. Yeah.
I Hear the Day's great. I mean, there's what was the one later on? It was like track 7 or something. I don't know. There was another one that I really loved.
Well, that's all right. I'll tell you why I was asking that is because I was thinking at a future date when I might interview you the next time. We got this new series called On the Record where we kind of talk with folks about their favorite bands and their favorite albums. So like maybe next time, you could think about this and it'll be a few months down the line. We could either talk about Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets, since those are ones you mentioned, whatever kind of got you off the most. You could think about that, Mike, but that's why I was asking that. And let me ask you this will be the final question for tonight. So you're involved with Fate's Warning and you play on the new album, that's great. And obviously with the COVID lockdown, you guys aren't going to be able to tour as heavily as you probably would. So are you guys kind of playing that by ear? Like, because I know some places are starting to open up, others aren't. Any chance of doing any like live streams or anything like that, like people are doing?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
It's just kind of being played by ear now, as far as I know. Yeah.
And then your bass player Joey Vera, interesting enough, I interviewed him a couple weeks ago about the new Armored Saint album, and it's kind of interesting because both bands, are on the same label, and you guys got your albums coming out the same month. But that's great because I tell you, people are going to get two great albums because the Armored Saint one, just from top to bottom, it's a great album, and I really dig the new Fates Warning album. I really urge people when it comes out November 6th to get it. Do you know, are there going to be actual, I'm assuming physical copies as well as people can buy it digitally?
Oh yeah. The new, just Armored Saint quick. The stuff I've heard is unbelievably good.
Yeah.
I mean, that record, what I've heard from that record is killer. I love it. But to answer your question, formats for the Fates Warning record, I know it'll be digital, CD, and vinyl.
Oh, cool, vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they've been taking pre-orders for that for a little while now.
Yeah, I think so. And Michael, any chance your solo stuff? I mean, I know like you release it independently, but if you ever give any thought of releasing that stuff on vinyl just for the, it amazes me because you never thought vinyl would be making such a comeback. But I've talked to people who they don't even have like a turntable, but they tell me everything's being released on vinyl. Man, I get it. I can't even play it, but just for collector's value, I'm going to get it.
Oh yeah, I would love to release my records on vinyl. I still could. I mean, I have masters for 3 of them.
There's always that possibility, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what it is. I think I'd love to work with a label on my releases. And I think if that was the case, then vinyl would be more realistic. But for me, as an independent artist, my own label, it's really just me.
That's
it's not really possible to do vinyl just because
financially, right?
The cost to produce it is just so much, and then you'd have to recoup that. You'd have to press
a lot of,
or you'd have to sell more than what I'm selling.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's kind of where I'm at with the vinyl thing.
Yeah, and as a solo artist, do you ever, from time to time, go out and do live shows, like playing your solo music?
Well, I've never really had a band do that, but interestingly enough, that was our plan. Sean Denault, who played on my latest record, Heart Signal, the drummer.
Okay.
He's excellent. He's local, and we get along great, and we really connect musically.
Oh, that's great.
We've been talking about doing shows, but then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of like on ice,
Yeah. Now, COVID-19 lockdown and all this, like you said, you've had a lot of time to work on music, though, and you said you're already in the progress of recording the next solo album. Now, this last one just came out in April, so I'm assuming you'll have this one ready, for 2021, or you have any idea yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm actively working on it. I've got about 6 songs right now.
Oh, wow, that's great.
These when I'm writing music, it's not really something. My friend who plays in the band, the local cover band I play in, Tina, she asked me, are you gonna? You have more time? Are you gonna crank out another record? And I was like, I can't really.
Yeah, I guess.
When I'm
doing it on your own, you got the luxury of.
It has to happen organically.
Yeah, you got the luxury of it'll be done when it's done. But the fact that you've already sing songs into that says a little bit about your work ethic.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be. Music isn't something that if you work, at least writing, if you work harder at it, it's gonna generate more product. It's more like. Yeah, you have to work hard at it, but it's something that has to happen with meaning and intent and purpose, and that sort of thing takes time.
A little more time.
So, I mean, I'd love to have one, but it might be 2022. I don't know.
Well, who knows? But that's good. You got something in the works on the way, and you got plenty of stuff to, keep you busy in the meantime. I mean, on one hand, you don't take 18 years like Axl Rose released a new Guns N' Roses album, but so we got that. But I just want to thank you, Mike, for taking time to talk to me again. I really enjoyed talking to you again, and I think this was a great interview. Just to let you know, like I said, I'm going to start posting the stuff within the next my next batch of interviews in the next 2 weeks or so, starting this week. So it should be up there in early November. I'll let you know the minute it goes up, and at that point, you're more than welcome to post on any of your sites if you like to do that. But I'll reach out to you at that time and let you know it's up.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It was a pleasure talking with you, Jason.
Okay, so just let's keep in touch, and like I said, maybe a few months down the line we can do a follow-up interview, because I'd like to also get the Heart Signal CD, and then maybe we can also talk more in detail about that. But I'd like to do that once I've had a chance to hear the rest of the songs.
Yeah, I'd love to. That sounds great.
Okay, take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Have a nice night.